r/NoSleep. Posted by you/happy_cryptid. Every night one person in town goes missing. And I think I'm next. I'm writing this as a last-ditch attempt. And I'm a bit rushed for time, so I'm sorry if this is a bit jumbled as it's almost midnight. Right, I need to give you some context. I've lived in New Zealand all my life. Never staying in one town or city very long. But one thing I always told myself was I would never return to my hometown of Lathan. A small town situated right under a well-renowned ski field. I'm getting off track. One thing I was always curious about was the disappearances. Every night at exactly midnight, a shriek? Scream? I don't know how to explain it. Something between a dying cougar and a wolf's howl. Regardless of what it sounds like, it really scared the shit out of me as a child, but eventually, we got used to it. One thing I never got used to, however, was the fact that every night, a few minutes after the ominous howl, a shriek could be heard, a very, very human shriek. But never the same. Sometimes it sounded young, sometimes old. And a person, fitting the shriek, was always gone by the time dawn rose. I never truly questioned it though, thinking maybe it was some animal that sounded human and could mimic? That alone was scary enough for a 5-year-old. But what truly made it sink in what was happening was when I was in year 6, 5th grade for you Americans. My best friend, Tim, disappeared after a very loud childlike scream had been heard the night before. You see, he lived next door to me. That's how we met after our fathers went to a barbecue and started talking. After that, we were inseparable. I think I finally realized that day, that what my naive self had believed to be people moving away, wasn't the case. And that my parents had told me that to calm my young mind. That dawning realization was the day I vowed I'd leave as soon as possible and never return. But first, I needed answers. Quickly I found that no one was going to be volunteering any information, and certainly not my parents. I never did find out much from my snooping, but I think at some point or another I lost interest and just accepted it. I grieved my friend and moved on after that, but the dread within me never went away. It never settled no matter how many nights I was awoken by screams. I didn't wake every night, as sometimes the screams were further or closer away. I was 18 when it happened. I jolted awake and was instantly on my feet when I heard the terrible howl. It was right outside, likely in our backyard. Now was my chance. I dashed over to my window, adrenaline pumping. But when I got there, nothing. I went to lay back in bed, heart thumping still when I heard a creak. It was barely noticeable, but it was there. Normally it assumes it was normal house noises, as there was a slight breeze outside. But this was not a normal night. The howl, or whatever it was, had never sounded that close. I sat up, too scared to move. I felt like a 5-year-old child once again, all the fear bubbling back up. What happened next is something I will never forget. In moments I was up out of bed, grabbing my baseball bat and storming into the hallway. My ears rang from the loud, pain and fear-stricken cry I had heard come from my parents' room. I ran in to see my mother huddled in the corner, curled in a ball and shaking. Tears dripped from her eyes, her hollow eyes. I don't know what she saw, but after that day it was never the same. I went to the police the next day to file for a missing persons, but I knew nothing would come of it. My father, the one who taught me to shave, the one who brought me my first beer, and my first suit. He was now a memory. A painful memory that I'd be reminded of every time I saw his face on the community board, big red words reading missing underneath. We all knew that he wouldn't be found though. The police didn't even look anymore, because they never found anything. The last time I saw my mother was 2 days after my father was taken. She was being put in the hospital for a psych evaluation at my request. I will admit that I don't know how it went. Because that day I had packed my bags and I was gone. I do still feel bad to this day, but do I regret it? No. After I'd left town I had nothing but bad luck. No one would hire me and I ended up homeless for a while. Then we flicked to almost a month ago when I broke my vow and came crawling straight back to this hell. Anyways, that is plenty of backstory. Now, you may be wondering, how do I know I am next? This thing is methodical. And it seems to be smart. It goes down street by street, house by house, but never in perfect order, probably to still have the element of surprise. But it never does the same house more than once every few months. It's almost like it farms us. And despite the number of witnesses, we still know almost nothing about this hellhound. Most of the witnesses are so traumatized in the moment that they bite off their tongue, or at very least are so deeply disturbed they refuse to talk about the topic and will shut down at the very mention of it. One new thing to note in this town is a new church of sorts. I haven't been, but it is more popular than Christianity in this town. It is settled in an old Victorian-style chapel just a few streets down from my parents' house. They call themselves the Silent Ones. They seem to worship the evil that stalks this town, but to join you have to have had a family taken. The ones who see this thing are considered chosen and make up the majority of the priests. Hence the name. I refuse to step foot in those doors. I've never been a religious person, and I sure as hell am not going to worship the creature that preys upon this cursed town. When I got back, I was told by an old family friend, one of the town's elders, that my mother had been taken by it a few months back. I couldn't even say I was surprised. It got everyone eventually, even the members of the Silent Ones it seemed. The only people it didn't seem to take were pregnant. Couldn't have itself killed the source of its future food, could it? I've been here for just over 2 weeks now. I am living in my old home, and even the slightest noise wakes me in a complete panic. The last new nights I haven't even slept. Running on monsters and coffee. Every night I hear it loom closer and closer, slowly taking people from my street again. And I just know I'm next, and if not, it will happen soon. Every house has one taken once every rotation. I have a few things to help me, for when that creature comes knocking. I brought myself a hunting rifle. It's only meant for rabbits, but it's something. At this rate though, I may end up just using it on myself. I'm so scared, guys, I can't let it take me too. Here is what I know about this creature. It is lean and... oh no. No. Not tonight. Please. I just heard its banshee scream from outside my window. It seems I've run out of time. Someone, please help me, I just know this gun is useless. I'm going to post this now. I can hear something creeping through the house, just out of sight. I've got my gun loaded and now all I can do is pray. If I don't reply to this post by morning, no, I didn't go missing. You know the truth. Wish me luck. The next story of this video. Posted by you/Jahorrible26. Blackjack with the devil. Think you got a good poker face? Or maybe that you've been given the lucky touch? Or maybe you think you have a divine being protecting you. Would you want to put that to the test? Test it in a way you could obtain knowledge or answers to questions that have been nailed into your head for years. To obtain riches and power hand and foot. Well, you could do all that with a simple game of blackjack, and you won't have to lose a cent. If you read the title, however, I'm sure you know you won't be gambling with your typical poker player, but rather the fallen angel, and judge of the damned, Lucifer. Shockingly enough, you can't just invite good old Azazel to weekly poker night at your buddy Jerry's house or some shit. No, to play with him you must follow a set of rules, as well as bring a select number of items. You can go about starting the game through one of 4 ways. Note, this doesn't affect the game in any way, just gives you easier access to play if you are unable to reach the other 3, as they are location based. I'll start by going over the things and rules that are a constant, and will be needed regardless of the path you start. 1. You must begin at 3 a.m. or later, but no later than sunrise. 2. You must do this alone, no other players, as he never likes a crowded table. 3. You must bring a lantern post, or torch lamp at least 4 feet high. In terms of what you must bring, that would be 1. A deck of playing cards, a plain classic deck of cards. Different colors are fine, but no fancy or themed cards. He'll find them insulting. Why, I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter how cool your Star Wars playing cards are, bringing them will get you sent back. 2. You'll need a set of poker chips. For some reason, for these it doesn't matter what kind they are, so feel free to use R2 and CT 5555 as currency for that one. 3. This last item is optional but strongly suggested, that being a gift, even the Prince of Darkness can appropriate a good pair of Jordans or a large bottle of whiskey. The latter is what I'd suggest, specifically a more pricey bottle. Gaining appreciation from him gives a little more of a leg up. If you get a good enough gift, he might even give you a free answer off the bat, or possibly let you keep your chips after a rather hefty loss. Now, as to reach the game itself. As mentioned, you can go about it one of 4 ways. Depends on location. The first method, and probably most common, would be to set up at somewhere like a graveyard or possibly a memorial site for a tragic event, anywhere where the dead lay or where deaths of civilians occurred really. If you are to set up at such location, not long after you will see something approaching you in the distance. Here you will come to face with a horse, pale and thin, almost as if skin and bone. Upon this horse will sit a figure completely cloaked in tattered robes, a scythe strapped to its back. The second way would be setting up in a location that was once used for war. Historical battlefield, former trenches, war zones, anywhere known for the battles taken place there. Setting up here will bring you to the sight of another horse, crimson red, its mane a smoldering flame. Its rider will be a figure donning knight armor painted a deep black, a large broadsword in hand. The third would be locations that once held great crusades, or once claimed by great conqueror and warlords. This could also include places said conquerors now rest, or first began building their empires, Rome and Constantinople being a big example. Yet again you will be greeted with another horse, this one being a majestic white. Its rider too will look rather majestic. Donning a Roman toga, completely spotless and almost shining, as well as a crown so bright it's as if it had been forged from sunlight. In this rider's hand, a long bow, with intricate detailed engravings. The fourth and final way is to set up in a location often associated with sickness, or disease. Like locations in Europe that were affected most by the Black Plague, or in the US that were most affected by the yellow fever. The horse you will come across will be a jet black, and swarmed with flies, patches of skin and flesh torn to reveal bone. Its rider resembling a sickly man, with a balance scale strapped to his belt. Depending on where you set up, one of these 4 horsemen will be your transport to the game. You won't remember the ride, you'll remember getting on the horse, then the next thing you know you're getting off it. The horseman will bring you to pitch black room, probably better to describe it as an empty void with a checkered floor. The only thing in this void will be a small, round poker table with 3 chairs, and a single light illuminating then from above just floating in the air. Seated in one of those 2 seats will be none other than Satan himself. He's not gonna look like some giant half-goat, red-skinned, ram-horned beast, most likely he'll take the form of young and attractive man or woman, typically one that just so happens to be your ideal preference in a partner, no doubt to play with your head. Once you've arrived, give them your gift if brought, sit down, reveal the deck and chips. From there the horseman you rode in with will join you at the table, act as the game's card dealer, and with it you're ready to play. As previously stated, you don't have to worry about losing money. The devil has no need for it, he could have whatever can be bought with paper and metal brought to him at the snap of his fingers. No, he much rather prefers to gamble for something much more valuable, time, your lifetime to be specific. This is where the chips come into play. The lowest valued chip is a day, the highest is equivalent to decade. The more of your life you bet, the greater your reward is. For example, winning a bet of a single day will range from telling you what events will happen tomorrow, to reminding you of that one thing you were gonna do but forgot and it's been driving you crazy. Winning a bet of a year will give you an immediate reward that will be given the morning after the game, such as finding suitcase of $10K in cash, to being offered to join contest with the prize being your dream car, only to win within minutes of winning. A bet of a decade could grant things such as a noticeable boost in wealth and earnings, sudden rise to a much higher position on the corporate ladder, a rise in recognition in your artwork, music, writing, acting, filming, etc., getting a sudden call from that certain someone asking if you'd want to go out for dinner. Betting the more chips played of one time frame, example, 3 years, 2 decades, 5 months, etc., will increase the reward pool for that category of chips. Of course there's the option to bet your soul to guarantee you achieve your wildest dreams, but that's not gambling, that is pure stupidity. Don't think it'll be so easy though, you are playing the father of all lies after all. It doesn't matter how well you think you can read people, you aren't beating his poker face, and he will fuck with your head if he wants. It doesn't matter how strong-willed you are. He knows everything about you, including the things that break that strong will. Now this doesn't mean he will fuck with your head, at least not in a personal way that'll leave you emotionally and mentally scarred. It is just a simple game of blackjack after all. This is another reason getting a gift would be a smart move. So be polite, be respectful, and be engaged. The devil enjoys small talk. He does not like to be ignored, however. Maybe he'll even take a liking to you. If Satan liking you is a positive or a negative is up for you to decide, but in that moment of time it is very much a good thing. And hey, if it turns out you're set for damnation, it doesn't hurt to earn a couple brownie points from the head honcho. But most importantly, be smart. Remember, you are quite literally betting with your life, and you aren't gonna win every hand. There is a very real chance you could cut your lifespan in half before you hit a big win. Once you've decided you've cut down enough of your lifespan, simply tell the devil you wish to finish the game. When you say this, he will offer you one last hand, and it's this hand in which the karma points earned with him truly take effect. The reward will be waking up to one of 3 options: finding your true love, someone who no matter how hard things get, will always will be by your side. Worldwide fame and notoriety, you'll be cast in movies, music, radio stations, every genre of art form you touch get praised to no end. Or extreme wealth and power, people will be at your beck and call, Nothing will ever again be out of your price range, and your influence could inspire thousands. The catch is he is the one who chooses what you bet, and you cannot refuse to play. Being too much of a prick during your game and he'll make the bet a minimum of a decade and a half. However, if the devil enjoyed your company, depending on how much, this bet could be as low as 2 years. Still unfortunate, but considering the alternative, or the bets you may have made during the game, 2 years would be nothing. After the hand is played, you may finish by getting up, thanking the devil for his time, and shaking his hand, and no, this isn't some loophole for him to steal your soul through some sort of deal with the devil type handshake. In fact, this is how he gives you your winnings. Once you've finished shaking hands, you will black out, before waking up next to the lantern you piked into the ground. Check the time and you'll notice not even a minute has passed, even if it felt like you were playing for hours. From there you may go home and go to bed. The next morning your earnings will be obtainable through some means depending on what you've won. So go collect your winnings, enjoy them, and hope your lifespan wasn't reaching its end when you first started the game.